It's nothing, that's a saving. In a house on fire, could you stay a while? Barely breathing.
Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Three Different Dads. I am Lorenzo. With me is Jim and our guest dad today, Adam. Adam, thanks for filling in for Tyler today.
Thanks for having me.
I always like that I can count on Adam. I think I texted you possibly yesterday, maybe Saturday, and said, "Hey, can you come on this podcast?"
Saturday.
Okay, all right. So I did give you a
little credit.
So I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, Jim, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. How are you guys?
Good, man. Good. Before we start anything, I do want to mention that we are part of the Nerdball Network. Now with two podcasts, the other podcast, The Nerd, Jim, the Nerdball podcast. We got this week is Jake Paluski, my brother-in-law. He also put out a documentary that I was in called Brief. It's a pretty good show about the music community around here and about his CD release party he had last March. So it's pretty cool. Check it out. Buy tickets. Not you guys specifically because you're not around here, but buy tickets to the showing if you are in the Toledo area. And then second on Thursday is Anthony Martinez, who is a comedian, a friend of mine, who is a dad of 3 boys. And we talked about dad stuff for a little bit. And then we did an episode of his podcast called Let's Get Quizzical, but that'll come out later. So that's what we did this week on the Nerdball Network. Thanks for hanging in there with me, guys, while I talk the other stuff I got going on. Jim, what do you got going on that you want to? What do you got going on that you want to shout out there? Anything?
Nothing. I got some support from a new listener fan.
Okay.
Got a message from the DMV. So no, my buddy that Tyler and I used to work with, he shot me a text message Saturday out of the blue or Thursday, something like that. I was just like, hold on, I have it here. Love the podcast, just stumbled upon it, tried to hit a few of them, but they're longer than my dick. Zoe's a great moderator / sexy voice. You and Tyler need to get whatever type of mic he has because you guys sound like shit compared to him. Tyler needs to speak the fuck up and quit sounding like he just ran over a small mammal with his car and you say like too much. Other than that, love it. If I don't have to listen to 6 assholes all day at work talking about the same shit, I'd probably tune in more often. Keep up the good work, fellers. Miss yas and go Luca. So.
Do you want to shout this guy out or no?
Sure. Yeah. Mickey Sullivan. He is a St. John's graduate, but we had worked at Put in Bay together for 3 marvelous summers.
Nice.
So,
well, thanks for listening, Mickey, if he ever listens to another episode.
Yeah. So, and we can kind of go into this part too. It was interesting because he put out a really good video. He's in charge of his 20th class reunion or whatever. Okay. I don't think he's officially the person, but he just kind of decided like, I'll just kind of step up and do this. And so I was asking him how that's going. He's like, I'm actually trying to do a podcast just with random people in our class weekly to try to like get interest of, what people are doing and get people excited about the 20th year this year. And he's like, it's a little bit of work, but I'm really excited to see everybody and, whatever. And so I so I don't know.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it because I haven't heard a damn thing about our 20th year. And I was like, I really wish, because he is in the Maryland area. And I was just like, I really wish that I was just going to pawn it on people in the Toledo area to be like, I live too far away to take on that type of responsibility. It needs to be somebody local there that can do it. But he's like, dude, there's the internet. You can look everything up yourself. So like, dude, you're poking holes in my theory, but yeah, man, it's exciting.
that's a good idea that he had or has that he's doing. It's either you're never, I feel like as far as our reunion, like there is some Facebook stuff going around. But I feel like you're either like 100% going or 100% not. Like there's no, I feel like there's nothing in between.
I have no idea of anything.
Mm.
Like legit, like so I must have pissed off the wrong person at some point, but I feel like the 20th is kind of like I remember that's like the one that maybe or 25th. Like I kind of start to remember like my mom going to hers
Mm.
and that being like kind of a big thing.
Yeah.
But also like I feel like with Facebook and social media, you kind of already know what the hell people are up to. But
Yeah. Adam, are you in? Because it's only like it's like a messenger thing.
Yeah, like whatever the Facebook group is, I think it's just like Perrysburg High School 03 or something like that. But it sounds like I saw there was a message posted a couple of days ago, actually, and it was more of like trying to get people's feedback. So there's nothing set in stone, but it sounded like they're trying to do something for homecoming, which obviously I wouldn't be, we wouldn't be able to go, or I wouldn't be able to go if it's in the fall.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, it's really because they want, and I've talked about it with Jim and Tyler, they want every reunion to be around homecoming, because it's not just like here's homecoming, it's like a giant thing now. Like the past,
right,
it kind of started this year where there's something Friday before the game, then the game, then the reunion for 02 was during the game in the Huskinson Center, and then on Saturday there's a huge thing downtown too. So it's like it's a bigger thing now, or they're trying to make it a bigger thing and trying not to, like, when they do have reunions, they don't want it like spread out throughout the year. They always want it in the fall.
Yeah,
Jim,
it made sense.
Yeah, Jim, I just invited you to the group.
I'm not gonna join.
You just
I have zero information, but I'm refusing to get any of the information.
No, I'll check it out. I'll check it out. I didn't have.
I'm not committed one way or another,
Oh, I just found the clip we're going to use. That's so good.
I didn't have Facebook for probably like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And then work made me get it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I don't know why I still have it, but I still have it. So
Well, while you're there, check it out if you want to. You don't have to.
all right.
It's
I
a free
appreciate
country.
the info.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before we dive into do we care, I have a big do we care, or do you care? Do you care that the Mavs blew a 27-point lead yesterday to an okay player, LeBron?
So
Jim's words.
these are the 23 most important games of LeBron James' career. That's what he said, because he doesn't want to miss the playoffs 2 consecutive years, which loser. It's 10 teams per conference.
Before we start, Adam, I know you probably didn't listen to, but I asked Jim a few episodes ago if LeBron was a great player, and he said LeBron is a very good player. So that's why
he is very good.
That's why I made that comment. Okay.
So
All right, proceed.
So yes, he said these are the 23 most important games of his career.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna, so you're gonna get their best shot. The announcers were all over the Lakers' cock that entire game. And
it was pretty brutal, dude. When LeBron hurt his foot or whatever, they're just like, "Well, watch LeBron when he's coming down."
Yeah. Oh my God, he's doing that. Oh my God, it's just like, dude, shut up. The Mavs are completely blowing this, and all you're doing is just stroking LeBron. And so it's just like, okay, there's a little bit too much there. No, they completely overhauled their roster. They're 4 games into this with the Luka Kyrie thing. They looked great the first half, first quarter, and they just could not. It was tough. I mean, hey, hand up, the Lakers, they made some big shots. So
and
not
it also wasn't. It also wasn't one of those things too where it's like there was like horrible fouls or non-fouls. Like I didn't nothing really stood out where there was anything like that. They just played better than.
It's weird too, because the Mavs just picked up God, I can't think of the guy's name. and he did really well on Friday night. And then
Green.
no, he started for him. Can't think of the guy's name. But anyways, they took Josh Green out of the starting lineup, who I love, and they put this other guy in. And for like the first
Holiday.
Holiday, yes.
Yeah.
And they just like looked out of sort, like their whole like everything was just kind of off that game, and they started so well, but the Lakers just weren't hitting any shots. But it was AD, and it was that
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt's sweet, yeah.
That play that he made going out of bounds, where he just chucked it behind his back to the guy streaking,
yeah,
that was awesome. Also, the Mavs need to stop bitching so much, and I love Luka, but like my God, like there's a point where.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
We could be going back. Like we're up by over 20 points. They cut it to within 15. We have an opportunity to like push it then back to 20, or it could go to like 10 points and really make this game. And they like, there's just no urgency on that. And it's like, dude, just let the call go. Let's get it next. Like get out of your own head sometimes. But no, I don't know the white dude on the Lakers who got in
Reeves.
Josh Green's face, but can we all just agree Josh Green would light that dude the fuck up? Like, I was kind of pissed that the Mavs took Green out after that, like little scuff up, and just, I mean, I don't know. They're work in progress, but the good news is they're in the playoffs currently, and they don't have the 23 most important games of LeBron James' career in front of them to make the playoffs. The Mavs actually have like the second easiest schedule.
No, they have the easiest schedule. I was just going to say that. Yeah.
So thank you, Spurs. Thank you, Rockets. That's pretty much who they're like playing back to back a bunch of these things. So
well, I normally don't watch like just a random basketball game, but the Spurs suck. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch this, especially because I turned on at halftime. Mateo was like, is there anything on? I was like, yeah, I'll turn the basketball game on, and we watched it. And I saw that like right before halftime, they called a timeout, the Lakers did, and they said, hey, their coach is like, hey, let's cut this to get this to under 20, which they did. And I'm like, oh man, let's see what happens here. And then it just got closer and closer, and it got more exciting. And then I'm like, man, win or lose, I can't wait to talk to Jim about this, because although this conversation really, like, you were like, to me, you're like super irrational. Now you're just irrational. So you're getting closer to the middle.
Dude, the part that I love about the NBA, and it drives my wife nuts, is like, dude, you just need to be within 10 points with like 5 minutes to go and have some type of offense flowing, and you can get totally back in the game. Like, so I never felt, it's weird. You definitely feel it watching the games where like the Mavs will go up by a lot, and then you definitely just feel the momentum going. And I was really hoping with Kyrie, they'd be able to like have a guy that could just drive to the basket and get a hoop whenever they need to. But that wasn't really the case, I felt like, in the second half. So I don't know. They'll figure things out. They'll get back on track.
Gumph, how many NBA games have you watched this year?
0. I do listen to, because I have a commute to work now. So I drive with one of the other coaches.
Yeah.
So we have about like a 35 minute drive. And so we'll listen to 105.3. I can't remember if it's the Fan or I think it's the Fan, not the Ticket. No. And so they talk about basketball. So that's the only.
It's the only Dallas team that wins.
Ooh.
I mean, they made the playoffs. If Dallas makes the playoffs and wins the championship, cool. If not, then they did as good as the Cowboys.
I mean, the Mavs have won a championship a lot more recent than
one championship.
Okay.
I'm just saying, well, then the other Texas team is better than the Mavericks then, because they won in 2014.
Who?
The Spurs.
Oh.
I'm just saying, if you want to do that, then we'll do that.
It's like 5 hours away. I'm
just saying. All right, let's get to let's get to our do we care here. Adam, do you
Yeah.
understand what do we care is? Probably not.
Probably not, but whatever.
Yeah,
Okay,
so do we
I
care?
only-
So Jim, go ahead.
I have 2 articles today.
Okay.
I went through the news itself is just very depressing. And it's the same shit over and over again. So it's like, okay, these people don't like these people. These people don't like. Who gives a shit? So,
Real quick.
first
Real quick. Adam, do we care? Jim gives an article, just a headline, and then we basically say if we care about it or not. And then if we do, then we regardless if we care about it or not, we talk about it. So
Okay.
All right. So here's a headline for you. SpaceX now targeting early Thursday for Crew 6 astronaut launch.
I don't really care about going to space. We have enough issues. We should probably solve more things here, but I don't really care at all. I don't care who's going to space.
Like what's the point of this?
The objective.
Right.
It's a private company, I guess, taking people to space.
If
Don't care.
If price wasn't a problem, would you go to space?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I would not. I would feel like I don't even like flying on an airplane.
I mean, what's the worst case scenario? You die and everybody knows who you are. Like,
Do you know who died on the Challenger?
no, but there's videos and stuff all the time about it though. Like, you might be a part of a documentary.
Okay, the society we're in is like 5 seconds and then they move on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But there was a whole movie made recently about that. I didn't watch it because it's depressing. But you're at least in the movie. Like when they tell the Elon Musk story, if this thing blows up, that's a part of his story because his company put somebody in space and the thing blew up. And the views would be really cool. Look at my background right now. Look at it and tell me you're not like, that would be pretty cool to stare out the window.
Nah, I'm good. I'll watch the movie.
Where are you going in space? Are you just going up in space? Like the initial shock would be pretty cool, but then you're staring at the same thing like the whole time.
What if you landed on the moon for like 3 hours, kind of like a field trip? You get off, you hop around, and then like you get back in, and then like you go back home.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. You know what's fake is there's like the airplanes that go into, I get it's space, but it's like just barely space, and then they kind of come back in. Have you seen those videos?
Yeah.
That's kind of Bush League. Michael Strahan maybe did that. I don't know. So,
I think you're right. I don't know. I still don't. I mean, I had a nightmare where I was in space and I was untethered and I let go. Like my hand slipped off of whatever I was touching, and I was just in space for forever. Until
grip strength. You gotta be able to hold on.
Dude, I was terrified in my nightmare.
Did you watch that movie with the Sandra Bullock movie?
I did not know.
I've only seen a couple parts of it. Yeah. I didn't watch it.
I never saw it. Like, it looked boring as hell to me, but
let's go to space.
I mean, they get, I think I don't 100, it's like 10 years old now, but isn't it her and George Clooney just like floating out?
I think there's some type of accident somehow. I have seen, have you ever seen The Martian with Matt Damon? Yeah. So that's good. I mean, like he's a rocket or he's like Iron Man for a hot second. Just punctured his suit so he could fly around.
Yeah. Ugh. So
I mean, that'd be pretty cool if you knew you weren't going to die.
I mean, here's the thing. So many people die a day on Earth just doing like normal stuff. And it's just like, okay, whatever. Not a ton of people have died in space.
But how many people have been in space? So what's the ratio of death?
No. I get that. But it's like, hey, my buddy died in space. Like that's a kind of a crazy like thing you could drop at any type of
at the bar.
Yeah, but you're going to be the one that's dead, so you can't drop it anywhere.
I mean, you're going to die anyways.
Do you want to die 30 years before you're supposed to? For a cool story, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's cool.
The movie. So think, well, like I think our first question was like, what's the objective, right? I guess just to go, but like eventually you're going to do what? Like, I guess you can go up there and have a birthday party. Like, I can't wait to plan it.
I mean, I feel like if you go,
Nobody. Hit it. Go.
I feel like if you go to space and it becomes normalized, then it's kind of just like, all right, so what's the next thing? You go to the next planet, or you go to the next. I don't know. I feel like the space program really hasn't done much since the 60s. And so it's like maybe they need to step their game up a little bit.
Well, because I think it takes like, I mean, they've been trying to go to Mars, but I feel like it takes like what, like 18 years or something to get to Mars. Like, I feel like it takes forever to get to these other places. So like you saying like, well, we'll go to this planet and then the next planet. Well, of some of these planets, you're not coming back. You're just going.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So I don't think we care, but it is an interesting topic. Fair?
Fair. I think we'll go back to George and what he said. Like, you can care both ways. So
Okay.
hit it.
This is the last one here. LeBron James ruled out of Grizzlies game, will reportedly miss extended time with foot injury. It's interesting to me because these are the 22 most important games of his career that he said, at least during the All-Star break. And after one game back from the All-Star break, he's now taking time off to rest. So Jordan would never. I don't really care about this, but Jordan would never.
I mean, you say rest, fine. I mean, it did say injured. So I think there's a difference between that and in resting and injured, especially nowadays when players are out for specifically when it says rest in the stat sheet.
Okay.
And not semantics, but I'm just
the most important games of his career.
Sure.
He's missing to monitor his right foot.
Which by the way, looked okay.
Where are they in the rankings?
They're like 12.
What team are they right now?
12.
Okay. And like, isn't there like 3 games that separate the Mavs and like 10 or 11, something like that?
So yes,
something like that. So, I mean, they're right there. I understand both sides of it. Like, obviously they need to get on a streak here to be able to even get into the playoffs. But do you want to be limping into the playoffs?
Or not even make it?
For him at this stage, it's all the same thing. So you might as well be healthy going in. I'm sure his viewpoint is if they just get in, that him and Davis are a better 1-2 punch than anybody, whether that's true or not.
All right, whose dog is that?
Sorry, the neighbors.
Yeah, right now actually between 4th place and the Lakers, it's 3.5 games. So yes, 4th place and 12th place. Yeah. And but the Spurs are 28.5 back. So
you're good. Saying there's a chance.
No. Suck for Wembanyama or whatever.
So I have 2. So that's my headline things. I have 2 topics though. I did want to bounce off you guys.
Got it.
Okay. First one is when you're listening to this, it's March, right?
Yes.
Okay. I know our schedule.
March 2nd. You got it.
We are 2 months into the year. We're a 1/6 of the way through the year. How's 2023 going for you guys so far?
Adam, go ahead. I'll let you go first.
It's been good. Different since I changed jobs. So that has been an adjustment, and we're just getting started. Baseball wise, we just had our first games this past weekend. So just adjusting to different school, the dog barking across there. But it's been going good.
So you talked about earlier, you talked about carpooling.
Yeah.
That's a for me, I feel like that's a dad thing too. Like, just, hey, let's carpool, let's save money, let's save gas, be a pal. So you knew this guy before you started at this job, right?
We worked at Allen for 6 years together. So
okay,
it's like year 8. I've known
Okay.
him.
All right.
So we're good friends.
I just know you. I don't know the other guy. Like, how quiet is this ride?
It depends because we leave at like we meet at like 6:15 every
Okay.
morning.
Yeah.
So we got to be at work at like a little before 7. So if it's been a long day, the day before, especially if we've had like a game, we coach football together, stuff like that, it can be pretty quiet. But normally it's pretty good. So
Just your run in the mill chatty Cathy's.
oh yeah, you know.
And you get to use the carpool lane.
Well,
You guys
we take the back roads, so
Oh,
that yeah, so that also makes it's nice and dark and all of that. And driving in Texas is you fear for your life. There's a lot of people that don't know what they're doing down here. So
yeah. But what about all
so that
like
keeps you on your toes.
what all these back roads? Aren't there deer and wild hog running around everywhere?
I say back roads. It would be like before you get on the outskirts of Perrysburg, where it turns into like nothing between like Perrysburg and BG.
Yeah.
Like you're on the fringe of that. You're driving through like the outskirts of Plano, which is a major city,
Oh, okay.
and stuff like that. So
All right.
Also,
Not
I
really.
think there's probably more deer in Ohio.
yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen anything like jump in front of a car here.
Mm.
right. There's too much
I guess it depends
civilization.
on where you're at, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you go east of Allen, where I'm at, then you run into like some wilderness or whatever you even want to call it. Like basically there's not a house on top of another house for
Yeah.
a little bit. So
Yeah.
but we're kind of like on the fringe of that. And then the school that I teach at, like the city Garland is big, and it's got 7 high schools. So we're not really like out in the middle of nowhere.
All right. Do you guys ever you just listen to sports radio? Do you guys ever listen to like music or anything?
Yeah, well, like when there's a break on the radio, we'll mix in alternative rock, little 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
Like it takes me a second to figure out like, okay, was this like junior high? Was this high school? Maybe a little bit afterwards. You forget about a lot of songs.
Oh, for sure. Trey,
I mean, like that genre just like disappeared out of nowhere.
Trey sends me reels on Instagram, and they're a lot about emo and stuff. And he sent me one.
Oh gosh.
He sent me one about like this whoever posted like the best songs from 2006, like emo type songs. And then he commented, he goes, I'm pretty sure we lived in a golden era of emo because these songs are terrible.
Well, what was awesome is he sent out that text out, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and it was Big Timers.
Yeah.
And literally the next day, it was one of the first days of baseball. And like we've only been on our field like a handful of days because of rain and everything. And so we were on the field that day, and head coach put on some music, and it was like early 2000 rap. And that was the first song that came on. It just made my day, got me going.
Oh.
Kids had no clue what was going on, but that's all right.
No. The 2023 is going pretty sweet for old Gumper. Yeah.
Yes, sir. All right. So you guys are up.
It's going good, man. It's super busy at work because we're opening a brand new park that I'm managing. So it's busy there. We did yesterday was our last day of our ice skating ribbon. So that's kind of it was cool. I think we had almost 14,000 skaters on it from February 2nd to yesterday. And that was like operating at a real low capacity because we just wanted to see how it was going to go. So next year we're going to be open from like mid-November to now to maybe possibly mid-March, depending on the weather. So it's going to be a lot longer, a lot more headaches and stuff, but it's pretty busy. And now the kids are starting to do stuff. We've been practicing indoor for softball, and next month Mateo starts flag football and baseball. So all these spring stuff is coming around the corner, but it's good. Everyone's good. Everyone's healthy. It's fun. It's fun running people everywhere.
When you say skaters at the thing, I just immediately think of like the Skater Boy song by Avril Lavigne.
Hey, going back to early 2000s.
Yeah.
Right there.
I don't know. As soon as you said that, I was just like, I got that song just in my head. So
yeah. It is not. Well,
speaking of sports, real quick, so McLean played basketball. This was his second season.
Yeah.
His first season, he didn't take a shot. It was almost like it's the same as his first year playing soccer when he was 4. I had to bribe him just to touch the ball, but about halfway through the season, he finally took his first shot. He made his first basket. So
Then he was just
nice.
shooting everywhere.
oh yeah, so he ended up being a pretty decent little player there. But
Nice.
so they just had their last game. They did a little tournament last weekend, and the team they played, they had beaten already, and then they tied him like the week before. So they just seeding wise, they had to play him again, and they ended up getting beat pretty bad. And he went took a shot later in the game when they were down, and he bricked it, and he ran down, and he just started screaming as loud as humanly possible. And I just realized that he's Amy's son. He's not mine.
I was going to ask how did he take losing?
He was upset, but he was only upset because he didn't think he would see his friends ever again since it was the last game.
Well, I guess that's a good
He was
way
a little disappointed that they lost, but that was
a good
it was
attitude
more
to have, though. I think.
Yeah, but he didn't shake the opposing team's hands. They were getting a little rowdy.
No.
That's awesome.
8-year-old basketball game, and like he shook the head coach's hand on the other team, and then like purposely went out of his way to not shake the rest of the kids' hands. So we had to have a teachable moment right there.
Sportsmanship talk, huh?
That's right.
Yeah.
So I like the fire in him though. That was good.
Did he like just have his hand out, or did he just like completely like turn sideways and not even like try to touch anybody?
He had his hand out, like it was like two players and then the coach. So he gave him a high five, the first two kids and the coach, and then like basically gave him the cold shoulder. He was like, no.
Did he put that? He was pulled it away, like
He's like,
to like
the first
every
kid.
single one.
First kid after the coach got the no, see ya.
Oh, Jim.
Dude, it's been good.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. I was just like, oh shit, like we're almost a quarter way through the year. So kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the first one. Second one here. A little hypothetical game. You ready?
Sure.
I got this listened to another podcast today, but would you rather have won a championship and then your team is just kind of garbage over your lifetime, or your team is always super competitive, like championship game or or conference champions, but they never win the big game ever?
So
What would you rather have? Like, would you rather be the 90s Minnesota Braves, but without the World Series?
Minnesota Braves.
Or,
Atlanta Braves?
yes.
Okay.
Or the Florida Marlins.
Florida Marlins.
Yeah, 100%. I'd want a championship. Also,
But
maybe
it's just one championship, not two.
Yeah,
We're
one
saying
championship.
as a fan, right?
As a fan, yep.
Yeah.
So that's basically the Indians for our lifetime. Right? I mean, they've obviously had bad stretches there, like early 2000s after they got rid of everyone in 01 to 02. But like for the most part, they're competitive. You know, they'll make a run every, they'll have like 2 out of 8 years where they make a deep run and have a legit
I'm saying
chance.
this is like consistent deep runs, but you're just never actually winning it. And then on the other side, you do win it one time. You don't know when that one time's coming, but you do win it that one time.
I would say I would take the Marlins hands down, as long as it's not like when I'm as old as can be and can't really like celebrate it. Because the point would be like that's a season that you're always going to remember.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
I agree.
There's good moments with the Indians, but like if they would have actually won in 2016, think about like how much that changes that moment. Like that's something you're always going to remember.
That
like
and go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
Well, like even like when the Indians tied it in the 8th.
Yeah.
Like if they would have won, if that would have been like the go-ahead home run, or if there's no rain delay, or if we don't continue to put Brian Shaw in the game after the rain delay and they win, like that's a moment you're going to remember forever. Like I know where I was.
But I feel like you remember that.
What I was doing and everything. But yeah, but like now it's not a positive moment. Like, because then you immediately think about how they just blew the game.
Yeah.
But then
they
also,
blew the moment.
I hear what you're saying. My counterpoint to that would be, actually, Lorenzo, you go because it seemed like you were on the same.
I'm with Adam. Like I would want one championship. I even said it, if they would have won in 2016, they could have lost every game for the rest of my life, and I would have I still have that one championship that I want to see. Like, do I remember that? Sure, I remember in the 90s. I remember watching games at a bar with my dad when they went to play to win the ALCS to go play the Marlins. Like I remember those things and they're good memories. But how much they'd be so much better if they won the championship. I and you're talking about deep runs and stuff. That's like the Philadelphia Eagles for forever make it to NFC championship game after NFC championship game. And I like cool. Is it exciting? Yeah. But you're just as much a non-championship team as everybody else, except for whoever won that Super Bowl. Like I'd rather give me one championship and I'm good, man.
Okay, but here
I also think it. Go ahead.
Go. No, you go.
I also think it depends on the sport. Like if it's college football, I would probably take constantly being really good because every game matters. That may change with the expansion of the playoffs, but like being a Penn State fan, if they beat Ohio State, if they beat Michigan,
Yeah,
I'm good. Like, yeah, I want them to win more than probably any other sport that I follow or any other team that I follow. But like winning against Ohio State and being able to hold that over everybody back home is almost like winning the national championship. So
that's a good point.
but like Indians, Steelers, I've been fortunate to actually see a Super Bowl win. So like, I don't know. I guess it depends. Like if your teams have already won it, you kind of know what that feels like versus never being able to break through.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's why you guys are wrong. And it's when your team sucks, the interest in that team goes down.
Are you a true fan then? Because a
Yes.
fan is short
Yes.
for fanatic.
I understand that, but there's no way you're like
you're
Lorenzo
talking about
this year. Lorenzo following the Spurs.
Mhm.
I'm going to say is nowhere close to what it was in 2014.
to be
right?
fair. To be fair, I rarely watch them because I live in Ohio and not a lot of their games are on. Now, I still follow. I still go on the Bleacher Report app. I check on them probably every day when they have a game. I like to see stats. I look at them. Do I want them to lose? Yes, because I want them to get a good draft pick. But I still follow them. But that now they're not going to make the playoffs, so I don't. But I do follow. And there's a good story. I remember when the Indians were horrible. This was probably I don't know. Were they bad when they were bad the last time? I don't remember, but we were living it with my in-laws, and my father-in-law was like, aren't the Indians bad? And he was talking to my mother-in-law, and she's like, she was talking to Andrea, and she's like, yeah. It's like Lorenzo's down there screaming at that TV every day. I was like, because I like watching baseball, it's fun. But I understand as a whole, or in the grand scheme of things, there are people who will not watch their team when they're horrible. I get that.
Because I mean, if your team makes a deep playoff run every single year, even if they don't get over it, that still means that they're making that run. They've won games in the playoffs. You still have those like the consistent moments of like, hey, we're gonna go to a bar, we're gonna watch this game. There's juice still.
Mhm.
Like if your team is non-competitive, but you've be like, oh, we won a championship. Yeah, that's cool, but then it's like, I don't know. I would rather enjoy like all those playoff like leading up to it. Like, do I think the Mavericks are going to win the NBA championship this year? Probably not, but it's still that like they're a good team. They're fun to watch. Like it makes it a hell of a lot more enjoyable to watch something like that than it was when it was like Dirk's last couple of years before Luka got there. And it's like Dennis Smith Jr. is not the answer, but it's just like, okay, like it's cool to go to, but even if the Mavs don't win it all this year, if they win the first round of the playoffs, like you got the juice going, it makes you look forward. If your team sucks, it's just like, well, we had that one win. We won the championship 20 years ago. That's cool.
Yeah, but I get that. But at the same time, you're also become like numb to what's going to happen. Okay, we're going in the playoffs again. Like, this is our year. How many times do we say tribe time? Oh, whatever. And
Oh, whatever.
it's not going to happen. Like, something's going to go wrong.
It could happen.
If you're the Buffalo Bills of the early 90s and you lose 4 straight,
Dude.
and
Yeah.
2 of them to the Cowboys, one of them being probably the worst Super Bowl ever, or 52-13 or whatever
17,
that
yeah.
score was. Like, the highlight of that game is Don Beebe knocking the ball away from Leon Lett. If you're a Bills fan,
I should ask my mother-in-law if she would, because she's a huge Bills fan, if she would rather them lose 4 Super Bowls, like continuously go to the Super Bowls 4 in a row, if you'd rather that happen and never win a championship, or just win one and never happens again. Like,
well, think about the
hard thing
Bills
is the
using
Bills
that
are so bad though for like 15.
right, but don't you think that stretch of, like, I think it was like 99 until Tyrod Taylor took them to the playoffs like 5 years ago, whatever it was, right before Josh Allen got drafted. Like, wouldn't that 15-year stretch, however many years it was, like, wouldn't you be like, okay, but we won it. We won a Super Bowl. Like, we got off the list. We're not the Cleveland Browns. Or if they win it, let's say this upcoming year, like, don't you think that replaces that terrible stretch? You're like, oh, it was worth it. We got Josh Allen and we won a Super Bowl because of that.
I would rather, like, in that Bills thing, like they also had one of like the greatest playoff comebacks of all time in that against
Yeah.
Dan Marino or what. Like, it was just like you're also winning a ton of like meaningful games along that period of time. So
Yeah.
but you're
I
losing,
mean, it would,
you're losing the most meaningful every time, and it's like, to me,
yeah.
that's so heart-wrenching. Like, oh, we're in it again. Oh, we're in it again. We're in it for the 4th time, and we lost it. Like, it's after a while, you're like, I don't even want to be in it anymore. Like,
Like,
it's
you
too
would
much.
almost rather them not make it to the Super Bowl or World Series, because if you keep making it, like, you're going to go down in history. Like
That's
the
what I
Bills,
I hate.
everyone's going to remember that
Yeah.
stretch.
I also
Like,
hate that the Indians are like, oh, who's had the longest World Series drought. I hate that
not
stuff.
a, like, how many teams have lost Game 7 of the World Series in extra innings? Twice.
With Michael Martinez up to bat.
Like,
Yeah.
like nobody talks about it because it's, at least there was a stretch. It was a stretch of like 19 years in between the two.
Yeah.
But, like, I wouldn't want to be known for that either. Like,
Yeah.
it's different if you're like the Kansas City Chiefs of the 90s under Schottenheimer, where that guy like has great years and then blows it in the playoffs, versus always making it to the championship of whatever league it is and then blowing it there.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
we sufficiently beat that topic.
Yeah, you lost, Jim.
We won the Super Bowl of that topic. Jim, you good?
great.
All right. All right. Anything else, guys?
What do you think of the new pitch clock in baseball?
Dude, did you see the very first game where it was bases loaded, full count?
Yes.
They called the guy strike 3.
Like, I didn't read in depth enough initially of like all the little intricacies of it, but I didn't realize like the batter has to be ready
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
with 8 seconds left.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense to me, because like the pitcher could just be messing around or like not on the rubber, and the hitter still has to just be literally staring at the pitcher. Like, he has to show that he's engaged in the at bat for that
Don't
pitch.
you think like it's going to be weird this season, but like by next season, it's just going to be like,
right? Because like they were talking about the pace of play, because obviously they got all these random stats nowadays, but like of the 70s, and it was like basically this was the pace of play. So it, like, all the baseball purists that are arguing against it, like, this is how baseball used to be done. So I don't have a problem with the pitch count at all. like as a former pitcher, like I tried to work fast, but I think they got to iron out some of these rules. Like watching the Indians highlights yesterday, and one of the Indians relievers asked for a new ball. I forget which one it was. The nut job that always celebrates
Karinchak?
after. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he asked for a new ball with like 10 or 11 seconds left, and they didn't reset it.
Mm,
Now his problem was that he had to flip the ball 17 times like Nomar
yeah.
or Siapara before he got on. But then he also started his windup or his delivery like as the clock is ending. So is it like you have to pitch the ball with 20 like at before 20 seconds? Like does the ball have to leave your hand? Is it? I thought it was just like you had to show that you're pitching at that point. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right, Jim. I think you're right. Eventually, it's just going to be like, well, this is what it is, you know, and people will get used to it. I did see a video of I forget when it was. Maybe it was 2016 in the National League playoffs, where it's like, how many inside the park home runs could Jose Altuve hit before so and so pitches a one pitch to David Ross?
And there's like 4 or 5, right?
Well, I fast forwarded and it was to 7. But I think that it was probably towards the end. But he was able to go 7 times before this dude got a pitch to him.
Hopefully, like as it's implemented for a couple of years, as you said, it's like the new norm, and then people stop calling timeout as much. People stop stepping off the rubber as much.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah. I think it's they need to do something. It was just like the worst part is, so my wife's got really big into like A&M baseball, like after last year in their run, and their team is like 4-hour games are the norm. Like they watch every single pitch go. They don't like, it's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know, like, so down here they do like I don't even call them tournaments for college. They'll bring in like 4 teams to like a minor league park. So they'll do it at the Rangers AA that's by us, or they did one at Globe Life the opening weekend, and they did have a pitch count for those ones. So I don't know.
That's what Tyler was talking about. That he said that's what he went down there and like was like training for pitch clock and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I don't know how they would do it at a place like BG or UT with not as much funds to be able to just have a clock on the scoreboard or not. But hopefully, like if it trickles down there, it's obviously already been in the minor leagues, that it just becomes the norm. Like you watch high school and most college games are faster, but you score more runs, so that obviously slows stuff down in college too. So
yeah.
But
yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. We finished on a bang. Jim, you good, man? You seem like you're in outer space.
I'm so mentally checked out. Like I'm going on vacation soon. It's just like whatever.
Just focused on LeBron James and his big 23 games.
Yeah. Gumph, how you doing, man? I feel so. Gumph and I live
30 minutes, something like that. Yeah.
30 minutes apart, probably.
Did you never talk to each other?
I see Gumph about once a year at Friend's house.
Yeah. It's like birthday parties.
Yeah. Summertime.
New Year's Eve, summer. Yeah.
So
just busy. I know. Luckily, things have slowed down at the new school. I think like before is working like 70 hours or something like that. Last year, one of the big reasons why I left was like I saw the kids during the week when we were in season, which is almost the entire year for football, and then baseball starts like a month later. I'd see him from like Sunday when I put him to bed till like Saturday afternoon, like 2 hours. And that would be like taking them to school, or like I would wake McLean up because Amy would take him to school. I'd just wake him up just so I could see him. And then like I wouldn't see him when I got home because I was getting home at like 7:30, or I'd see him like as he's going to bed. So it's been better to be able to see them.
Good. Lorenzo, permission to go about 5 more minutes here.
Yeah, you're good, man.
Okay. So
thank you.
It's a dad's podcast.
Yes.
Gumph has 4 kids now. and we can cut whatever, but so two of them you've adopted.
Yeah.
Right. What advice would you give to people that are looking to potentially adopt kids?
I mean, like obviously with kids, every kid is different. Every situation's different. Like we adopted a sibling set, a brother and sister, and just their situations were completely different because it was same mom, two different dads. One dad was, they didn't even know technically who the dad is for the one child, at least legally. The mom hasn't said anything, and they tested a few guys. And then the dad for the our son like was in the picture, but not a good person. Basically, there was some domestic violence and all of that. So that what the kid goes through obviously is going to impact who they are, even at a young age. So that's been caused some challenges for one of our kids too. So it would just be like you have to go in with an open mind. Like you can't. Like I think some people get this idea that you're gonna like take over this baby and there's not going to be any issues or any ramifications from whatever they've gone through, but that's not the case, and it's the same as raising your own kid, but at the same time it's not. So
Do you ever worry that or I guess how often do you worry that okay, our children are good, all four of them are good, but is what they went through going to cause problems? Like now it's, like you said, there's some issues, but as they get older, like how is this going to manifest? Like, is that something you think about?
for sure, all
Yeah.
the time, just because we've seen the effects of it already
Mhm.
without going into too much detail, but it's always going to be in the back of Amy and I's heads. And then it's, when something goes wrong because they're kids and something's going to go wrong eventually, or make bad decisions, whatever, is it because of that? Is it because of, our parenting? Is it just they made a bad choice? So
Mhm.
it's always going to be there. And it's going to be something that they're going to have to deal with. Some of it on their own, some of it with us, it just depends on how much, they're not going to remember any of the details or anything like that, but there's always lasting effects. So
Mhm.
something they're going to have to manage.
And then so how did you all because it's not something that you can just kind of like stick your toe into, I guess, like, hey, we're gonna,
Right.
but is there at what, how did you guys decide, like, hey, let's look into the adoption thing, or how much time, I guess, did you guys think on it before it's like this is kind of the route that we want to go through, and
Yeah.
sense for you guys, or at least like look into it more?
So Amy had always wanted to do something along those lines, maybe not necessarily adopt, but she was always kind of pulled in that direction, whether that would be fostering, adopting, or just helping out in some way. So really it wasn't something I thought of, as a guy in our 20s, and then so we had talked about it and she had mentioned different things along the way. And then after McLean, we struggled a little bit to have him, and then it was much longer process. So we kind of just left it up to God at that point. And then we were at church, and our church is pretty big on fostering, and they had the whole sermon was like somebody else coming in who was a foster parent, and he had talked about he had a child or two on their own, biological children, and they had an empty room. And he's like, we have this spare room. It's not really our room. It's God's room, is how he worded it. And we had already been talking about it. So it's kind of like confirming what we had been talking about for a while. So I don't think we started right away after that. So it was a long process before we even got it started, probably a couple of years. And then because of coaching too, we had to, the program we went through, or the agency we went through, you have a bunch of classes obviously that you're going to have to go to, and training. So it took me probably like a year to get it all done. And then it took like a couple months after that before we got our first call to foster. And then the whole
So,
process with our two kids was like another 2 years on top of that.
So in your mind, when you started, when you're like, okay, this is something that we want to do, just because like I'm very ignorant on the whole situation, like I just don't know really much about it. But like in your head, when you first started, was there a lot more to it than you initially thought, or were you like, no, this is about kind of what I thought we were going to get into? Or is it like they should give us more training based on what we're actually getting into?
Like the training, just because being in education, you have at least an idea of that kind of side of things. Obviously, that doesn't cover all of fostering and all of that. The training was a lot longer than I expected. And part of that was just because you had like the training was either in Arlington, which is an hour away, was downtown Dallas, basically, or south of Dallas, which is over an hour away with traffic and all of that. So it made it longer just because of the location of all of that. But the paperwork is crazy. Like when they drop a kid off, literally they're dropping a kid off and they give you a stack like you're signing a house, buying a house, and it's sign this, sign this, sign this, of like anything that you could think of that could happen. And then like because things have happened in a foster home, random things you can't have or you have to have locked up. Like McLean had a Nerf gun. You have to have those locked up with like the bullets in a separate container, locked up, then locked into like a cabinet of some sort. So kids can't get those because I'm assuming something happened at some place with a Nerf gun, you know. So things you don't think of, things like that. And then we have our dog. So that was a whole nother thing you had to go through to make sure that the dog is safe for the kids and all of that kind of stuff. So it was more of like the little things. And then just like the whole process, literally they call you, whatever, let's say just a random Monday at like 10 a.m. And they're like, hey, we're going to be there in 3 hours. And you have to be like, okay, we accept or we don't. And that's all they really tell you. Like they'll give you the gender, the age, and that's it. They don't tell you, like what's going on, anything like that. You can set like if you really wanted to, like parameters of like, I want this, 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 and this. But obviously that's not really like the point of getting into fostering. So all we said was that we just wanted someone younger than McLean. That way it doesn't change too much of his routine.
Like dynamics, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like if people are like, what's the best way that somebody gets started in this? Is it like through churches? Is it through?
So you could go that route. Really, you just need to find like an organization that's behind it and just kind of reach out to them. Shoot an email, hey, we're interested, we just don't know a whole lot, whatever questions that you might have, and they'll either contact you or meet with you and then kind of just go from there.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, I remember when you first started fostering, I'm like I always think of all of us as just like younger versions of us. So no matter like where we're at in our life, it's like, oh, we're still 18 or whatever, right? So like I think about you like fostering, I'm like, man, how can they be like doing that? It seems hard, seems crazy, which it is. It is hard, it is crazy, it is all those things. But obviously that's something you guys really wanted to do. And and for you guys, like and Jimmy may have asked this question. I don't know if he asked a different. When you were fostering, did you know like, hey, we're fostering it to adopt, or was it strictly just fostering and then you decided to adopt?
So you have, at least with our organization, you had like a different pathways, I guess, that you could say. So you could say that we're just here to foster, like, so you're a home that's just trying to basically bridge the gap for the kids and, try to help them out as much as you can, but you're not there as the long-term permanent solution. And we met like, so you can do what's called respite, which is basically you help out another foster family. Like let's say they want to go on vacation and they can't take the kids. Maybe they're going out of state and they legally can't take the kids. So you would watch them for like the weekend or a week or whatever. So we did that first just to kind of get our feet wet with it. And the woman that we helped out, she was strictly just fostering. So and that kind of changes like the whole dynamic, because you're there to help. You want the kids to get reunited with the parents and all of that. And then we went the route of foster to adopt. So we're still involved with the parents, and it's not like we were trying to, take the kids from the parents or anything like that. But but it obviously changes the dynamic a little bit. And then you have kinship, which would be like you're a relative fostering the child. And then obviously it depends on the situation there of whether the kid goes back to mom and dad or stays within the family or not. So, and then you can do matched adoption, which would be for an older child. I think, at least with our organization or Texas anyways, I think you have to be 8 or older. And like, it would be like the child's placed with you, you're going to adopt them pretty much right away.
Okay.
So, or like after, I think they still make you go through the process for like 6 months just to make sure it's a good fit for both the child and the parents. But
Last question for me is, like, going through the whole process, is there like something that you're like, they really need to reevaluate? Like, is there an easier way to do it than what they currently do? Like, is there, or is it all kind of like you understand the reason why they do it the way they do?
well, a lot of the issues are just like the laws in general. Like,
Yeah.
so Texas just changed, or I don't know if it's Texas or under President Trump, they changed a bunch of laws, and it, at least from our perspective, it made things a lot more challenging and not necessarily better for the kids. Like um, like you had to get a child placed in a certain amount of time or something along those lines. I can't remember the exact details. And like kids were staying in the CPS office, like they didn't have a place to put them in. So like they're sleeping in an office. That's not obviously an ideal situation. And then they changed like what would be like the requirements to remove a kid. So like they took drugs off the table. So like a kid could stay with their parents even if they got caught using meth, for example. Which I get that you want to have less kids in foster, the foster system, but at the same time, is that going to be what's best for the kid if they're around drugs and drug dealers and all, whatever the situation is. So I don't know what else to do. I don't know like the solution to it. I guess at the end of the day, you would need more people to volunteer in some form of fashion, whether they're going to be foster parents or temporary, housing, whatever it may be. So that's, without that, I don't know what else you can do with the circumstance that they have.
It's crazy because so my dad was adopted, and this is the late 40s, I guess, and they just gave him to another family.
Yeah.
It's just like,
that's so crazy.
and it's just like, okay, like, like the, just knowing a little bit of the process that you all went through, it's crazy. Like, not that long ago,
Right.
that was the thing. And now it's like, all right, we got to go through this. And I know like you guys had visits and all this type of stuff, and like making sure everything was in order. It's just, it's crazy for the work that you guys are doing and putting into it, the hoops too. But like, I get the checks and balance. Like, you want to make sure good people that you're entrusting with the kid. It's just, it's pretty crazy.
Because they would tell us like during some of the trainings, and it makes sense, but like, so a child is kind of, this is not the right word, but labeled basically like based off of their behavior or medical conditions or whatever it may be. Like if they have more things that you have to deal with, they're labeled differently. And so people would get more money because they have to put in more time or effort, or they have to take them to doctor's visits, whatever it may be. So like some people would cheat the system because you give reports every month, like this is what the kid did this month. Hey, we signed them up for basketball, we signed them up for this or that. This is what they're doing in school if they are our school age. And people would like basically forge what they're saying so they get more money. So that's why like some of the loopholes are put in there, because obviously that's going to prevent the kid from potentially getting adopted if that's just a foster home.
Yeah.
Because now they're labeled as, a behavior issue or whatever it may be, which is crazy. Like, why are you, like, people are trying to do this for a paycheck, which is scary because then they have this kid in their home,
Yeah.
So
Crazy.
Well,
I appreciate you sharing that. I know we went long, Lorenzo.
no, you're good. You're good. I appreciate it too, Adam. And thanks for coming on the podcast.
No problem.
You were a great
For having
fill-in. Yeah. We're gonna have another fill-in next week, Jim, right? You're out next week.
Deuces.
Yeah. So I already have someone to fill in for next week. So sorry, Adam, it's not you.
All
so
right.
next time. But as always, check out Three Different Dads on all social media. 3differentdads@gmail.com. THREE. Check out us on YouTube. We're everywhere. So find us everywhere. Please reach out to us. And maybe you can be a fill-in dad someday. So as always, thanks, George. What do I say?
Well, it's wrong, whatever you say.
This has been Three Different Dads.
My
Bye.
3 dads. Yep.
If there's nothing, that's a saving.